Hey, it's Halos in the Infield with your host, Todd Fox here. And you're listening to another podcast, but it's kind of a special one today. We have a special guest, and my other co host will introduce him.
Why are you going to let me introduce him? I'm only Fernando. You let him introduce himself.
Go for it.
Hey guys, I'm Bobby Gritch. I'm
There you go. Hey.
hey, it's Frankie Kazarian, professional wrestler and diehard Angel fan for all my life. What's going on? Happy to be here, guys.
Yeah,
thanks.
no, thanks again for the time, man. We really
Yeah,
appreciate
man,
it.
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, you want to start off, Fernando?
Yeah, so you're a Southern California kid. You were born in Palm Springs, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you grow up in that area or did you move to another part of Southern California?
Yeah, so no, I was born in Palm Springs, California, and raised in a town called Yucca Valley,
Okay,
which
yep.
is 35 minutes just up the hill, a little small desert town. And but Palm Springs was the biggest city in proximity, so that was where you went to do anything, go to the mall, go to the movies, pretty much anything. Yeah.
That area has grown a lot over the years.
Yeah, in fact, since we're talking about Angels, obviously, the reason I became such a fan, first and foremost, my parents, both big Angels fans, especially my mom. But the Angels, before everybody moved to either Florida or Arizona, they played their spring training games in Palm Springs.
They
Yep.
did, yeah.
Yep.
And so when I was a kid, uh, we would go 3, 4, or 5 times a week.
Wow.
And games were, I think there were $4 to get in, real cheap. And it was so different back then. I remember sitting there and watching Reggie Jackson take batting practice, and Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire are two of my favorites, just being right up close, watching them in the cage and just getting autographs and being so close to the guys. It was so cool. And I look forward to that every year. And then when they took it away from us, it was so disappointing.
Did your family ever take you out to Tempe after that, or was it sort of like?
No, yeah, we never we threatened every year to go out there and catch in spring training, but it's like, man, the drive's not too bad, but it's like, spring training's gonna be over before you know it, and we'll just, we'll catch our games in Anaheim. And but yeah, there was something special about that park, just being so close to me. And I remember there would be days when I'd be in school and I'd get a call slip and it would be like, come to the office, and I'd go to the office and my dad would be there. He'd be like, we got to take you out of school, and he'd take me to a game.
Oh, dude,
awesome. Yeah.
That's
how
awesome.
cool is
so
that,
cool.
man?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. And of course, weekends we go all the time. And there used to be a lot of, this is back when baseball cards were big. There was a building adjacent to the stadium that was did a little baseball card convention every week too. So just nothing but good memories, dude.
I used to work in Palm Springs 3 times a month. So there was a store that I did there that was on like Cathedral Canyon. Is that what it's called?
So there's North Palm Canyon, and then
Okay.
there's like that's the main street in Palm Springs, though. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I had a store that I would service in that area, and I'd always go get some lunch, and then I'd always just drive and just eat in the parking lot there because I'm being a big Angels fan. You fall in love with the history of the organization, and a lot of people don't realize how truly rich the history is, especially with Gene Autrey being the first owner, and
Yeah.
he was such a prevalent figure in Palm Springs. So it was just really fun to just sit there and just imagine the history. Obviously, that's before my time.
Yeah.
But
What's funny, you mentioned Gene Autry. So where I'm from, Yucca Valley, about 15 minutes, I guess it would be west of here, is a town called Pioneer Town. And they built that town in the 40s as a Western set. So Gene Autry, Tom Mix, Roy Rogers, all those guys could film their movies and they could stay out there.
Oh, wow.
And it was authentic, and the set stayed stationary. And Gene Autry filmed dozens of movies up there. And my mom met him when she was a little girl. Her parents, my grandparents, would take my mom and her sisters up there. And she met Gene Autry and got a picture with him. And so fast forward, when we were at an Angels game in Palm Springs, Gene Autry was there, and he was in his limo outside. And my mom got to talking with his assistant. And she's like, yeah, and she had the picture with him. And she's like, oh, 1 second. So she went over to the limo and showed Gene Autry and rolled down the window and called my mom over. My mom got in the limo with him, and he talked to her for like 10 minutes, signed her picture, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember." They were talking about Pioneer Town, and she said he was the sweetest man. So I was like, "Oh, that's so cool," you know.
That's awesome. So you never got a chance to meet him, I'm guessing?
No, I never did. I never
Okay.
did.
Man, that would have been awesome, though. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I wish I could have done. You know what I mean? If I can go back in time, make fun of me all you want. That'd be on the top of the list. Try to go meet Gene Autry.
Oh, he's an icon if you're an Angels fan, and just
Absolutely.
in general, just what he just the legacy he left with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all the movies he made.
Yep.
The dude's an icon, man. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I did a history piece for our YouTube page, I didn't realize he had 5 Hollywood Walk of Fame stars. He's the only one to have that many multiple for all the things he accomplished in the entertainment business, in sports and everything.
Multi-talented, man. They don't really make guys like that anymore.
Nope.
And and he was an entrepreneur. He bought a baseball team, and and it became a success. That's great. It's an American success story. It's really cool, man.
And a military hero at that too.
True, yeah.
He did a lot.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that he accidentally bought a baseball team too.
Right.
They're just like, "Do you want a baseball team?" And he's like, okay, sure. Why not?
Yeah. Funny how that happens, man.
Absolutely.
So
go ahead. No, I was going to dive into his wrestling. So you.
Oh yeah. First. Well, who was your favorite Angel growing up as a kid? Your first Angel?
Well, so I always my dad's favorite baseball player. My dad passed just last year, and him and I really connected with baseball. So his favorite baseball player was. Thank you very much, man. Mm-hmm. His favorite baseball player was Rod Carew.
Oh, okay.
Even like when he would coach Little League and stuff, and he would always, he would always remind me as a dad and as a coach, just you don't want to try to drive the ball to the park. Just get Rod Carew hits. You always call him Rod Carew hits because he just he loved how consistent he was in his swing and just his hustle and the way he approached the game. So I always knew of Rod Carew, so I kind of gravitated towards him. When I got into like baseball cards and started going to games, like obviously I liked Reggie Jackson when he was an Angel. Mm-hmm. Wally Joyner. He was one of my favorites because Wally Joyner and Jose Canseco were rookies at the same time, and both were two of my favorites. I like Brian Downing because he was jacked with the big arms. I like guys when I was a kid. I like guys for weird reasons. I like Bobby Grich. I liked his mustache. He's a badass infielder. Don Sutton's curly hair, like all those old Angels. Doug DeCinces, I loved him. Gary Pettis because he was fast and he could jump high, and it was but yeah, Rod Carew is my first favorite Angel, and then there's so many going through the years, like Darren Erstad and and Kingfish and JT Snow, and now what we got now with Trout and Ohtani and Upton and Torrey Hunter, and there's so many of them. But yeah, that's my long-winded answer to your very short question. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go with
that.
I
love that you get excited about the organization. We've had a lot of really, really good talent run through here. Mm-hmm. Some of the guys have unfortunately been here on the tail end of their careers, like Upton, you had just said.
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson. Those are guys who were here in the twilight of their career. And even to an extent Reggie Jackson, right?
Yeah.
But just the amount of talent that we've gotten to see here. I always say that, like, if the walls at Angel Stadium could talk, like the stories they'd be able to tell because of the history that's taken place in that stadium is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the franchise is what is it, just 60 years old, 61 years old. Mm-hmm. And it's I think people downplay it's the richness of the history that stadium has and that the franchise has and the people that have come through there. It really is a who's who if you look at it. Especially if you walk the walls of Angel Stadium and you see everybody that's actually been there and played there and the records that have been broken there. Yeah, it's pretty unreal.
I'll tell you what.
What's your opinion on the stadium? On the Big A. What's your opinion on Angel Stadium?
I love it. It's my home stadium. When they did the big rebuild and added the rocks and the waterfall and all that, I feel at home there. I've been there so many times. I went there so many times when it was, I went there to see Rams games. Mm-hmm. Oh. And, when the Rams played there and Angels games. And, the stadium was just kind of blah back then. It was just very green, just kind of nothing to it. The dugouts the bullpens were on either side in the outfield. And, it just was just if you were creating a stadium in a video game, just generic stadium. it was nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they did this rebuild and put the stones in the outfield and the waterfall and really changed it in the Big A. And I love how you can see the freeway from the stadium. It's, you know, really gives you that SoCal vibe. So I like it. I'm biased and I'm very familiar with it. Like I know where all the, you know, I know where to get good beer. I know where to get the good food. I know, you know, so like I know where to get the good macaroni over there in center field. You know, I know how to. So
that new macaroni is delicious.
I'll buy. Yeah. That's no joke, man. That's no joke. There's also the chronic tacos there. I think is really
yeah.
Really good.
Have you tried the Big A burger yet?
I've had the double burger. Yes, I have. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good cheeseburger.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. In fact, we got those. I think the first game we went to this year, and just because we were hungry and didn't want, you know, hot dogs and stuff, and it was like my wife and I were both like, wow, these are really good hamburgers, man. Like they're really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they stack up.
Literally. I was just gonna say, you know, going back to all the Angels players that you brought up in those years in the '80s where they had to battle with such big divisions and only, you know, you win your division or you're out, no matter your record. Had they had the 15 years later the wild card, I think the Angels would have been in the postseason a lot more times.
Yeah, like that. What was it? The '86 battle with Boston.
Yep.
Like I remember watching that, and I remember Oil Can Boyd, the pitcher for Boston, and remember how he'd cry after games when he would lose. And yeah, that was. I mean, it was a different ball. I mean, it was so much more competitive back then because you had, you know, those two teams going at it, and that was it. So the field was a lot more competitive. But yeah, you're right. If the system had been the way it is now, I think the Angels would have been. They would have probably had several years in the mid '80s and a couple years in the '90s where they, you know, could have been in the mix.
Yeah, because '87 they missed it by one game. So I mean, they should have been a wild card.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you know, it's we have that in place now, and we haven't really seen a wild card or a playoff game. And
they added a couple more.
In a way, yeah.
They try to help us.
Yeah, right. And we're still 2014. So, yeah. So the plight of an Angels fans, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, real quick to get to some wrestling. So you made your pro debut in 1998. What does it mean that you've had such a long and competitive career in such a competitive industry? I mean, 20 plus years in any sport is insane.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of longevity. You know, and I tell people this all the time, like anybody can, and this goes for in baseball, football, any sport, acting, art, music, anything. Anybody can get hot for a minute or blow up huge and be around for a while. I'm a fan of people that can sustain a certain level and ride that out and have a storied career. And I'm very, very blessed that I've been able to do this for 24 years and at a somewhat relative level and somewhat relevant level, I should say, and still doing it. It's, you know, it's, I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of really good opportunities come my way and I've worked very hard. So, but like I said, I like longevity. I like, you know, I like the Rolling Stones. I like Metallica. And I like guys, people that can, you know, like Jeff Bridges as an actor, guys that can sustain for many, many years. That's what impresses me over, like I said, anybody can get hot and be good at something for a minute, you know, but can you do it for 15 years, 20, 25, 30 years? That's what's very impressive to me.
Yeah. And you've maintained and you've, you know, you reinvented yourself. You've gone into different divisions, different companies, and you've still sustained that respectability in a wrestler that people want to see. And for me as a fanboy, dude, I still go back to Victory Road, 2008 TNA, where you did that move off the X on Daivari. That was insane, bro. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Was that your idea? Or how did that work out? I just want to ask about that.
All the Ultimate X stuff that was high risk or insane was my idea. And at that point, I had already done the diamond cutter to Chris Daniels when he was hanging off, you know. And I'd already done some pretty spectacular moves from the structure. So I was always, back then at least, I was always trying to top myself. Mm-hmm. And I was in a kind of a weird headspace at the time and like really, you know, was kind of throwing caution to the wind and like, what's the worst that can happen? I was like, oh, I could break my hip, but whatever. So yeah, no. So I had thought about it, and I had pitched the idea to Davari, who was the guy that took the leg drop, and
Yep.
The weird thing about it, I remember, is I just kind of went up there and made sure I could stand up and do it, and I was like, oh, this will be no problem. And when I actually went and did it, I was stood up there, same thing. I thought this will be easy. And as soon as I jumped, I remember, I jumped and landed like that. But in that time, I remember thinking, how am I supposed to land? I was like, I only thought about the jump. I didn't think about the landing. So I was like, wow. So all that went through my head. I hit him. I landed on my hip. Luckily, I really didn't get hurt. I was walking kind of bad the next couple of days, but yeah, just one of those, that youthful exuberance got the best of me. And but you know what, man? People, you're not the first. People talk to me about that all the time. So I'm proud that I have one of those iconic moments in the industry to look back on. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, because I remember watching it live, and then I was at home with the audience saying, "Holy shit!" I can't believe it.
It's cool to see the fan reactions for those things. Like those TNA fans were rabid. TNA used to get a bad rap, but God, our fan base they were very dedicated.
Oh yeah,
they were rabid, and that was cool. And that's that's why you do it. You do it for that reaction, and for that. Wrestling is about moments, and that's a moment I'm very proud of.
Absolutely,
should be absolutely. How would you describe the training regimen to become a pro wrestler? For anybody who's out there wanting to get into that industry.
So it's different now. So when I came up, there was a huge emphasis on physiques and how you looked, and like you had to, if not be big and jacked, you had to at least look like an athlete. Like you had to look like something. Mm-hmm. So you had to train, for aesthetics to look a certain way, but you also have to train for functionability to be able to go out there and wrestle for 15, 20, 25 minutes to be able to do the moves that we have to do in the course of a match. Nowadays, a lot of, there's not as much of a emphasis on how you look, which is good and bad, because, guys aren't pressured into looking a certain way, but at the same time, you've got a lot of guys showing up looking like complete slobs, and it's kind of taken the mystique of pro wrestling away, if you ask me. But you just have to, like, now I train to, I'm lighter than I've ever been, and I train to look a certain way, but more importantly, to feel a certain way. I want to be able to move good. I want my flexibility to be on point. I want my quickness to be on point. I want to maintain my strength. So it's tough. It's never ending. If you want to do this for a living, it's never ending. You're never not training.
Yeah.
We're doing this all the time. We don't have an off season. So you have to, you have to live that Groundhog Day-like lifestyle. Get up, train, go to the gym, focus, all that stuff. If you're injured, dealing with nagging injuries, you have to address that. It's just, for me, it's just a day in the life, but it takes a lot to get to that level.
Yeah. I'll give you professional wrestlers a lot of props. I travel a lot for work. I'm on the road about 15 to 18 days a month. We have friends in, the Angels organization who, I have dinner with them. And we talk about how much I travel, and they're like, dude, you travel more than I do. And, I'm looking at you and I'm like, you travel more than I do. Yeah. So,
yeah, the traveling anymore, like, we always say, the wrestling we do for free, it's all the traveling and stuff they pay us for. Yeah. Like sitting in an airplane for 3, 4, 5 hours, especially being out here on the West, and I'm always going back East. There's no such thing as a comfortable airline seat. Yeah. Even first class, it's not comfortable. They're not built for humans. I don't know what they're built for, but just sitting, that tightens your back up. Driving a car for long times is tight, so
I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chiropractor's my best friend. I can only imagine it's the same thing for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. That's the traveling is what kind of is the drag, but hey, I'm blessed and I'm fortunate to do it.
Have you done the JetBlue Mint experience yet? Have you tried that one?
No, I haven't, because I'm a Delta snob and I've flown nothing but Delta for close to 20 years. And, so yeah, I would do JetBlue back in the day, and I always enjoyed them. But yeah, I'm such a Delta snob. I've been strictly them for a long time.
Okay, yeah, for me it's American, so
Okay, yeah.
I haven't gone to do any of the Delta lounges, but I've earned the lounge status with American, which they're not the best. I'll
Yeah,
say
I mean,
that.
but those, those are invaluable on long layovers or
Yeah.
delays. You go in there, your drinks, your food, everything. It just, that's a good thing to have. Anybody that travels, if they don't have some type of airline lounge membership, I highly suggest you get one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to pop in there for a nap on a long layover. Sometimes
Certainly.
they have the little lounges.
Oh yeah. Yep. Certainly.
I got to ask you another wrestling question though. This is my
Sure.
second one, man.
Sure.
But when I first started noticing you was early days of TNA. TNA had those young rosters with yourself and just high flyers, X Division, things like that.
Yep.
And I didn't know till afterwards what a good friendship you built up with a fallen angel, Christian Daniels. He was always one of my favorites too. That was in the X Division, and to hear some of the stories about how he helps out the younger wrestlers, getting them over, things like that, where he's at now. Same thing. I mean, you guys have grown up in the business. Now that you've been in it for a while now, you're still elite wrestlers, but you're giving back some of the things that we didn't see maybe in prior generations. How is that? Is that something you guys do together, or you guys have your own thing?
No, that's I mean, Chris Daniels now is in a position where he has kind of an office job with AEW, and he's kind of in that role to mentor people. And he's always been a guy that was really good at that and really good at giving advice and really happy to give advice and goes out of his way to help people and tell them what they're doing right, tell them what they're doing wrong, always in a very unselfish way. That's one thing. He is very unselfish. I'm one of the guys that it's weird. I will never go give somebody unsolicited advice. Because I see a lot of guys do that, and they do it for the wrong reasons. They do it because, they want people to say, look at me, I'm helping out this, what they're doing. It's self-serving. Mm-hmm. And I've always, but I will say, a lot of times people will come up and go, can you please watch my match? Or can you please give me feedback on this? And I'll go out of my way to watch that match and do that. But, for the most part, I keep to myself when it comes to that. And a guy like Chris Daniels, he has that nurturing, mentoring, training gene in him that he's just very good. And like I said, he's very good about just noticing something and going up to someone and tell them to maybe tweak it, and they tweak it, and if they listen, and it's up their game. And that's what to your point, it is. The business is supposed to be all about giving back. I had people that I had met, going back to Killer Kowalski and then going to Jerry Lynn and Terry Taylor and just a lot of people that helped mentor me. And the business is supposed to be about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So last two wrestling questions I have before we talk some more Angels.
Sure.
All right, so you've been around the wrestling block, if you will, for some of the big names, TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor, AEW. What's one of the differences between the companies that you don't mind sharing?
Oh boy. I mean, so TNA, I was with TNA when they were a startup, which was, a real unique position to be in at a time when there was only one dog in town.
Yep.
And, and the business was in a really unique position right after the WCW buyout. And along came TNA, and nobody really gave us a chance. And we picked up some steam, and we had an absolutely phenomenal roster, especially in the early days. Look at the guys that started there and look what they're doing now. Yep. Look at AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley and Bobby Roode, just amazing, and then you add the veterans like Kurt Angle and Christian and the Dudleys and Sting. It really was, it became a very fun place to work. And we, TNA became very competitive. They were drawing, well over 1 million viewers every week. And not a lot of people to this day can say that. The short time I had in WWE, I, at the time, wasn't mature enough to be there, but that place is a well-oiled machine. There's a reason they're the biggest game in town, and they're always going to be. They have their stuff down. Their production is top-notch and cannot be touched. That is a wrestling business. That's when you think of the wrestling business, it's WWE, because they have a head start on everybody. And when I was there, personally, I wasn't ready for it to be a business. It was still kind of my fun thing I did, and it became a business quickly. And now with AEW, it's another startup company, and kind of in the same position, but AEW was able to get television really quick, and that gave them by leaps and bounds, that gave them a whole lot more momentum than they would have had they started on a streaming platform or something else. So I've been in all the companies at really different times, and at the end of the day, it says wrestling on the marquee, and every arena you go into for Impact, AEW, WWE, there's a wrestling ring in the center, and that's all that really ever matters to me. And wrestling fans every 18 inches, hopefully all over the building, sometimes not. The companies, they're all going to have their good and bad aspects. You're always going to deal with politics. You're always going to deal with some backstabbing and some he said, she said stuff. But at the end of the day, my focus is to go in there and wrestle and have the absolute best match I can, and just continue to do my craft at the highest level I can.
And I like just one quick thing on the AEW is the fact that they started out without any sort of age restrictions. They were able to dip into, like Fernando was saying when we were off air, that you guys are, kind of like the Attitude Era a bit. You're able to be a little more freelance with things you do.
Yeah. They've they're really catering to that section of the audience. And a lot of people are very much happy to see that. Happy that they get to see blood on a weekly basis. I personally think that a lot of those things that's a slippery slope, because you don't want to paint yourself into a corner, and just presenting a certain thing.
Yes.
Wrestling should be a variety show. There should be something for everybody, not just the hardcore fan. But I think AEW is really, presenting a solid all around show. And I think right now all the companies are really, my opinion, not that I watch regularly, because I don't. So let me put that out there. But from friends I talk to and things I read, like every company right now is really putting on the best possible work they can. And, wrestling fans are still going to probably complain, because, that's the nature of wrestling fans. But, be happy that, hey, man, when I was a kid, I got 1 hour wrestling a week. Mm-hmm. People now have 8, 9, 10, 11 hours a week to watch. So, you have, it's almost an abundance of riches. So be happy that you have that much to consume.
Plus, especially now you have YouTube and streaming services to watch old pay-per-views. Literally, you can watch wrestling for hours and hours and hours and not even scratch the surface anymore.
100%, man. Yeah. So it's so much. There's so much now. It's almost, sometimes it feels like too much, to be honest. It's too like if I don't know how these wrestling fans keep up with it. If you're a fan of Impact, MLW, AEW, ROH, when it was a thing, like it's I don't know where you find the time. I have a hard enough time keeping up with Better Call Saul and Mayans. I can't, I let alone 9 hours of wrestling. So.
One more episode left of Better Call Saul, by the way.
Yeah, I just finished watching the most recent one. Boy, that's been outstanding.
I love that
show.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, phenomenal.
I'll say this, and I've said this about MLB, and it's the same thing with wrestling. As a fan of both, we're definitely in a golden age of wrestling and a golden age of baseball. In terms of wrestling, there's just so much content that, you can truly cater your taste to what you're watching because of the accessibility of it. And in terms of baseball, I've been saying that we're in an age right now where there's just so much talent. We've never seen this level of talent in the MLB before. You have guys who are built like middle linebackers, and look at Mike Trout. You have a guy who is a true two-way player. No disrespect to Babe Ruth, but he's playing against plumbers. So it's just the never-ending amount of talent we see in sports these days. Period. You can't take it for granted.
No, you're right. It's it really is a cool time to be a baseball fan. And baseball. That's why I think kids are so drawn to it, because like baseball, for me, like the players were always like football players were just football players. Baseball players were like star athletes to me. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with because you can see their face all the time. They're not I don't know what it is.
That's fair.
But it's like. Yeah, like now, Tani and Trout, I'm so glad my son has grown up watching them. and it's so cool to watch them. And even like my wife is Canadian, she's a big Blue Jays fan, and that team is a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah,
especially with Vladdy and Bichette and Biggio and all those second generation guys, and Aaron Judge, and Tatis is coming back soon. Yeah, it's really cool, and it is another like golden age, man. Like it really is right now.
You can look at that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask what part of Canada your wife's from. My wife's from Canada too.
Oh, so she's from a little small farming town about 2 hours out of Toronto called St. Mary's, Ontario.
Okay.
And,
my wife's from
actually,
Nova Scotia.
Okay, actually, and the baseball tie-in to that is St. Mary's, Ontario, is the site of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
So it's cool. Yeah, we went up there when I first started going up there. We went up there and checked it out, and it's pretty cool. It's a little bit of history there.
Absolutely awesome.
I was just gonna mention about the American League East. You can talk about, all five teams are alive for the wild card or the division.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's fun for baseball. I haven't seen that myself in a while. So
yeah, it's cool. It's cool to even see the Orioles on fire lately. It's really fun. And we got, like I said, we have the MLB package so we can watch the Jays games, and it always works out because they play at 4:00 our time. So by the time the Jays games are over, the Angels game is starting if they're at home. So it works out cool, so we can watch both games, and that's fun. Like I said, my son gets to watch those guys. He's a big Ohtani and Trout fan. He loves Bo Bichette. So it's really cool that we have that caliber of star playing on all these teams.
Yeah. I have a 7-year-old too, so I completely understand. I mean, you're a fan of a team, but there's nothing like being a fan of a team when your kids start to take interest and you got to start taking your kids to the game. That's the best feeling ever. And, because of Todd and I doing this, we've gotten to meet a lot of the players, and, Tanner's, my son, has had to meet some of the players. We've had dinner with some of them. And, for someone like him, it's awesome. You know what I mean? He gets access to these guys, and it only motivates him more to enjoy the game. And, I love that. There's nothing like having your kids love baseball.
Yeah, because I remember anytime when I would be at those Angels games at Palm Springs, and anybody's I remember getting an autograph from Terry Pendleton when the Braves were in town. I'm thinking everybody was everybody was a superstar to me. Everybody, it was cool. And like this year, my son's always liked baseball. This year was the first year he really started paying attention at the games and really, so who's up? Oh, Walsh is up. Who's up? Who's up? And we were actually at the game when Seattle was in town and the fight happened.
Oh, okay.
And we were sitting. Probably we were on the third base side, and we were probably 12 rows back. So it was right in front of us. My son was losing his mind. It was insane. So it was cool.
He wasn't the kid who got flipped off, was he?
No, it wasn't him. No.
Okay, cool.
No, we were standing up watching. He had never seen anything like that. And I told him in the first inning, I said, something might happen today. And sure enough, it did. So it was cool, man.
I'm pretty sure if your son was flipped off, you would have came off of the dugout right on the winker.
I don't know, man. Only when the red light's on, man. I don't need that smoke.
Fuck off! That's Frankie's music.
Yeah.
My God,
he's coming down the aisle.
We've been to maybe more. We've been to 4. I know we've been to at least 4 games this year, and they've won every game we've been at. And every one of them, something special happened. We were at the game where they broke out of the 15-game slump.
Okay.
Awesome.
We were at the game where Walsh hit for the cycle.
Okay.
We were at a game where Ohtani pitched and hit 2 home runs and Trout hit home run. And we were at the game with a fight. So something cool has happened at every game. And they've won. Which is this season in particular is pretty cool to be at all winning games.
We've got to get you season tickets.
That's what everybody, anytime I post about it on social media or Twitter, a bunch of Angel fans I'm friends with and follow me, and they're like, can you just get season tickets already? I'm like, hey, man, I know. Let's do it.
I'll reach out to my connections and get you some seats there in the club level. That way you can go there as many times as you need.
We got to work that into his wrestling contract.
We'll put that language in my next deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. So last wrestling question I have, more of a fun one.
Yeah.
So, if you're in charge of booking, pick one wrestler from the wrestling world, pick one MLB superstar to compete in a main event match of a pay-per-view. Who are you picking?
All right. Well, coming down the aisle first from Gainesville, Georgia, be the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Outstanding athlete. And he's going to be in the ring with an equally outstanding athlete, number 27 from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Mike Trout.
All right.
How about that?
Okay.
AJ Styles versus Mike Trout.
Okay.
Two phenomenal athletes at the peak of their game. Book it. That's money right there. That's
That'd be
money.
pretty fun. Who would you want to fight in this hypothetical world if you're on the card?
I'd like to fight Rognod Odor.
Oh,
I wouldn't mind, but yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Because he's not a big fan of his. I respect the hell out of his playing. He's an incredible player. He's scrappy and he can throw a good right. So I'd like to see if him and I can mix it up.
Okay, there you go. I like that answer.
I would say for the box office of it, I would go in there and I'd go in there against Judge, do the David and Goliath thing. I'd do it in New York so I could be the heel.
All right, take all the heat.
Yeah, I could be the shit heel, steal the victory. It'd be great. Yeah.
Off air, I told Todd that Brock Lesnar, Giancarlo Stanton would be an interesting match.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good too. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Real quick though, too, to follow off of that, you know how you brought up the fact that Christopher Daniels is a guy that can teach wrestlers if they want to listen. I feel we need someone like that as a hitting coach for our players. What are your thoughts on the way the hitting's been so bad?
So early in the season, I was always saying to my wife or my mom, who's a big fan, I would always, at the end of every game, I would always say, my God, we are going down looking a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then it was only about 3 weeks ago, I was looking into some stats, and the Angels are, I don't know if they still are, but at the time, we're leading and going down looking. And I was like, that and so many swinging under the balls and like infield fly ball outs. And I was like, okay, at some point you have to point your finger at the hitting coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look I know it's one of those years where we've been snake bit and where everybody was hot at once and everybody got cold at once. But like the hitting has been consistently, and I say this just as a fan that doesn't have the skill, but it's been consistently poor. We haven't been aggressive. We've been, like I said, swinging under the ball, and it just is frustrating. It's I mean, you can point your fingers at the players individually, but I think we kind of need to retool the coaching staff going forward as well. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to work on, but hitting coach might be at the top of that list.
Yeah. Do you think that the bulk of the coaching staff is scrubbed clean? Considering the fact that Perry Manazian doesn't have any of his guys in the coaching staff, he acquired all these guys. Yeah,
probably. With the shakeup of Nevin coming in, when he did, and I just. It's almost going to be one of those. It's almost going to be a complete rebuild, I think. From the inside out. I don't know. I don't see them retaining many. I don't know. It depends on what they do in the offseason. I don't know.
Yeah, because me and Fernando were talking about it. Like the last couple of years, this team has needed pitching, and this pitching staff.
The last 2 years.
Yeah. But this year alone, like me and Fernando were like, man, this team. If we had this pitching last year, we're in the postseason. Because the hitting was much better with some of the same guys.
Yeah,
it's just this year the pitching's so much better. Even prior to the trade, they're still holding teams under 4 runs or less, but we're averaging 1.5 a game. And like you said, like the whole team hit a cold streak. At some point, most teams I've seen over the years watching baseball, will dig themselves out of it. They'll try a new routine. Something will change, and they'll pick a cowboy hat like thing to get them motivated, and they'll get going. But it's been since halfway through May, and nothing has changed moving forward.
Yeah, and like I said, we have been snake bit. With again Trout going down, and Rendon again.
Mm-hmm.
He's what's he played in 150 games?
Yeah, less than 150.
Yeah. That's
in his 3 years with the Angels, he's played less than Pujols did in his first season.
I read that same stat. Yeah, I read that same. Or he's only played 5 more games in 3 seasons than Pujols played in that 1 year. Yeah, and for everyone who wants to say Pujols was, past his prime and, wearing down when he was an Angel, that's, playing 155 games is pretty damn good to me. But yeah, so, and Fletcher, obviously another one. And, so we've been, that's not an excuse. We have been snake bit, but at the same time, snake bit, everybody going cold, nobody hitting the ball. It's just, it's the perfect storm to give us a season like we're having.
Absolutely. Well, and your opinions on the trades that they did with Syndergaard going, Marsh, obviously, because was he a favorite of yours, Marsh or Syndergaard?
I really liked. I was excited to get Syndergaard. I think he was. He did okay. I think he was suboptimal. He was, just kind of okay. I really enjoyed the energy Marsh brought to the squad.
Absolutely.
I really thought. He's very quick. He's kind of was waiting for his bat to catch up to what he was doing in the field. But I really enjoyed him. I was sad to see him go just because I personally enjoyed him. I thought he was very charismatic and brought a lot of fire and was kind of a spark that this team needed. This team is it can be very dreary sometimes. So he was always a guy that was kind of that ball of energy. For that reason, I'm sad to see him go. It's yet to be determined how everyone else is going to work out. I think Moniak's already hurt, right? Moniak already injured.
Yep.
Yeah, he got hit in the hand.
Is he done? Is that a fracture? Or is he?
He might come back, they're saying at the very end, but I mean, might as well just scratch him.
Yeah, I mean, and the catcher we got from Philadelphia, he's in the system now. So
Hoppy.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that all develops. This season unfortunately is a wash. So I think they're just trying to make something happen with letting Syndergaard go and letting Marsh go. And you know what, those guys, Brandon Marsh, he's a guy I'll root for. Just because of his time on this team, he's a guy that I will. Whatever happens in his career, I'll be kind of watching from afar and hoping that he does well. Agreed.
What about Raisel Iglesias? Were you pretty bummed to see him go?
Yes and no. My opinion was a little inconsistent. I always thought he overpitched, but you know what? One of my favorite closers we had was Frankie Rodriguez, and he would overpitch. He would, God, he would scare me to death sometimes. Just that bite on his breaking ball. Sometimes it would just, God, stop throwing him in the dirt, man.
Yep.
But you got the job done, and Iglesias kind of reminded me of K-Rod a little bit. I don't know. I'm kind of the mindset of this year. Let's see how Heger can do. Let's see how some of the other guys can do. And let's try to find somebody, and groom them for that role. If we're not going to go out and actively get somebody for that role specifically, let's try to, it kind of seems like that's what they're kind of trying to do. Is trying to find their guy who's going to be the closer, at least for the tail end of the, 2022 campaign. So I wasn't, my take on all the trades was basically, at least they're doing something. We haven't had a lot to be excited for as Angels fans this year. So, if they're making any type of noise, I'm invested because I'm a diehard fan. I'm all in. So at least they're trying something. I guess that's okay. I'm cautiously optimistic. There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
So you brought up K-Rod. And we have something here called the question of the day where we, every morning we'll ask a question pertaining to the Angels. And a couple of months ago, we asked, is Francisco Rodriguez a Hall of Famer? So just as a refresher, he's got 437 career saves. He's got a career ERA of 2.86, and he only lost 53 games. Is Francisco Rodriguez a Hall of Famer in your opinion?
I mean, if the criteria we're judging on is strictly numbers, and if you put those numbers up against others who are already in or in consideration to go in that position as a closer, I would say yes. I mean, again, being an Angel fan, I'm very, very impartial. But I mean, like I said, I don't have the numbers in my head of all the guys that are in there as closers of Eckersley's and all those guys, But I mean, God, what'd you say his ERA was? That was 2 something? That's
2.86. Yeah, 2.86.
That's pretty. And the amount of losses he had, that's those are some strong numbers, man. Like, I mean, he's a guy that should seriously be put on the ballot when he's eligible.
He is this year, I believe.
So he is okay, yeah.
Because he has better save numbers than Billy Wagner and I believe Lee Arthur Smith, who are both in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so well, that's good. That's it's a tough sell trying to get a closer in there. I mean, over position players, guys that are that were stars and more popular and that were like more attainable. It's probably a tough sell, but like I said, if you're going to judge by the numbers, and that's the criteria we're putting guys in the hall, let's put him on that ballot. Let's hope the sports writers do the right thing.
And hope he picks the right hat too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
exactly. Let's hope he picks an Angels hat. He was here for the longest portion of his career, so hopefully that helps. But who knows? I mean, I maybe I'll need to text Jeff Fletcher, and we'll have to get him on because obviously he's the head of that committee.
I will say this: going to closers, Troy Percival, obviously another Angels closer.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you guys, if you were going to games at the time, I'm sure you were. When he would come out to Godsmack, he would come out to the the song. I can't believe it. The song's escaping me now. Oh man, it'll come to me in a second. But they'd crank that up, and he would sprint from the bullpen to the mound. Boy, dude, being there live, that was like a wrestler making his entrance.
Yeah.
Keep Away. The song's called Keep Away.
Keep Away.
Keep Away. Yeah. When they would crank that up, I remember being there live, and it was like I would like get goosebumps because he played big pop, and he would sprint from the dugout before the grass stopped, and then walk to the mound. And man, it was so cool. What badass walk-up music that was for a closing pitcher to have. Keep Away. That's so cool.
Were you there for Hansel Robles when he came out to the Undertaker's entrance song? And he's and there was the guy wearing the white horse.
Yeah, I would hear it. I never saw it, but I would hear it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a really fun entrance too, just because it was so different. You know what I mean? Yeah. Such a slow paced song. He had that slow paced jog. It was different, but awesome.
Yeah, it fit. Yeah.
And speaking of Percy, in those magical years he was here, the Rodriguez run in 2002, where were you? Did you catch any of the playoff games, or what was your feeling that season prior to their playoff run, and then? What were you feeling? I mean, did it feel unreal that you were actually seeing the Angels get to heights they'd never been to before?
Yeah, I remember being very, very busy doing. I was not with TNA yet. I was, just kind of an independent guy, but I remember every week I remember watching a game in Arizona during a show. We had a TV in the locker room watching. I remember watching a game in New Jersey. I remember watching a game somewhere else, and it seemed, for every game I was somewhere else. Well, just all over the place. But obviously watching. I was even in Australia for a couple. Yeah, but their game, the final game, I was home. I was actually going down to my parents' house, and which was very special because again, them being huge Angel fans, to watch it at their house and to watch that last out be caught at home and to celebrate with them was very cool. I'll never forget that. Awesome. Oh. Very, very cool. And the only one. So yeah, but no, that was a fun season. I've never yet been to a playoff game live. I went to several games that year. Though I remember those early 2000 years when I would go with my family, we always sat out in what they called the family section, which is just the left field porch where, and we would always sit out there, always have a blast. But yeah, I've yet to do that. I'd like to catch that playoff atmosphere at a game. Not going to happen this year, but maybe next year. So yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the trade deadline. So if you're the Perry, would you have traded Ohtani at the trade deadline?
No, I mean, not this year. If you're going to do something like that, I don't think that's a mid-season trade deadline type trade. You're talking about a once in a generation player, and that's going to be either a major off-season deal involving tons of money and tons of players, and there's so many huge ramifications that would be part of that. I don't want to see him go anywhere. again, selfishly, because I want him to be an Angel, a career Angel, and win World Series and titles and Cy Youngs and everything else with us. Having said that, you know, at the position we're in right now, I mean, if you want to rebuild and get some quality players, that might be an option, because, you know, if you're gonna get rid of someone like that, you're going to ask for a ton in return.
Absolutely.
And rightfully so.
We saw what happened with Juan Soto.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and a lot of my baseball friends, we talk about that, and it's like, you know, it's almost like one of those, you know, it's like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face for the greater good of the Angels. Do you want to let this once in a lifetime generational piece of gold that we have go, you know, and hopefully win and hopefully be successful, and in return maybe set our franchise on the right path, a path that we haven't been on in a dozen years.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to think there's a way we can go forward with Trout and Ohtani together, and a new crop of guys and some of our prospects coming up and guys getting hot at the right time. I hope it happens, man. I don't know.
And see, you sound a lot like us, because that's how we feel. Like there's a good and bad to both sides of holding on to both. You could do like what you said and get the right pieces to go around them, but it's a risk. You could trade and get a bunch of young guys to support your team like Washington, but it's a risk that they all pan out, you know, and that you're building for a future.
Right. And like, you know, I'm such a big fan of Mike Trout that I don't want him to become the Barry Sanders of baseball.
Yes.
You know, I don't want him to be that guy that's maybe top 3 at that position ever, but, you know, other than his incredible work that he's done, what does he have to show for it in terms of pennants, you know? You know, so for like, I hate to say this, but like, so say if they unloaded Mike Trout and sent him to Philadelphia, you know, where he was born, you know, where the team he grew up watching, and he was successful there. Of course, I'm going to be a fan of Mike Trout regardless. You know, he's, you know, but like, you know, we have this guy, we have Ohtani, build around him. I mean, that's kind of like every Angel fan for the last couple of years have been almost like banging our heads against the ground saying, like, build around these guys. Yeah. Like, please, like Artie, somebody, like, listen, my God. It's like, it seems like it all falls on deaf ears, man.
Yeah, I think it's always just been Artie getting out of his own way. We've always kind of said, you know what I mean? It's the big contracts. I mean, Artie Moreno spent over $1 billion on failed athletes. You know what I mean? You had the Hamilton contract, the bulk of the Pujols contract. You know, I'm hoping that I'm wrong about Rendon, but as of right now, it's not looking too good. You know what I mean? Yeah. We have a lot of guys here who have just been failed money. It's not that Artie right here doesn't spend money. It's just always that it's not the smartest way to spend money. You know, you have good baseball guys who probably aren't making those deals. I told Todd in the offseason, and people laughed at me when I said Billy Upler was never the issue in Anaheim. Yeah. People literally laughed at me. And now look at what he did with the Mets. They're a good organization. They have an owner who, you know, is out of his own way. He'll give you the money, but he's going to let his baseball guys make those baseball decisions.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, look at right now with the money we got tied up in Trout, Ohtani, and Rendon, like those, you know, those 3 players, like that's a lot. That's a lot.
And Ohtani's making like $5 million. Imagine when he gets his extension. Just wait for that to happen.
Oh boy, that's going to be the end of next season is going to be interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. It's really like, depending on how well the Angels, it's going to be a very interesting time for us as Angels fans, depending on what happens next year, depending on how successful we are and what happens. It's going to be, I think we're going to be gritting our teeth and sweating a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think Ohtani sticks around long term? Do you think an extension actually happens?
Again, optimistically, I would love that to happen. I hope so. I've read a couple interviews of him lately where he's like, you know, he's happy to be here, but he wants to win. Yeah. You know, Ohtani wants to win. So, again, I think next year is going to be very telling. I think if the Angels can be in a position where they are competitive for a wild card or even get a wild card spot, I think that might be the spark that would, you know, maybe allow Ohtani to say, okay, you know what? this looks like something that could change for the better, I'm in. I hope so. But for him being a guy that wants to win, the guy that got into the game to win, I can see him going back to the scenario we just talked about where they unload him for a ton of guys and a ton of money. I don't know. I really just I'm hoping that those two can stay together, because I think that could be something, if you built around those guys and the team gets hot and momentum hits, that could be something special going back to that golden era of baseball. People could be talking about do you remember the 2020s, the squad the Angels had? They could be talking about that for a long, long time.
Because that's what we were hoping. I mean, like in the first, when this team was 27-17 off the bat, I was thinking this is a year we're going to, and Fernando was too, that we're going to get our feet wet in the postseason and then build on that for next season, like you were saying, hopefully getting Ohtani back. Because we were figuring, okay, if these three can stay healthy, Trout can get back to MVP status. Like you said earlier, Ohtani could be flirting with a Cy Young. Rendon's pitching in maybe 20, 25 homers, 80 RBIs, 22 bags. It could be an exciting season. But to me, this has been so frustrating as a fan watching this team.
Yeah, it's like, what happened? I can't put my finger on what the hell happened.
Yeah,
because and it's they teased us because the beginning of the season, man, I was this exactly like you guys, like, wow, this is it.
Yep.
This is it. We've built upon. Yeah, we've built upon what we needed to build upon. We've improved. We are clicking.
Yep.
And then, like, I still to this day, like, what happened?
Yeah, we got a crazy stat the other day. They're 23-52 in their last 75. I've never seen a team be like that ever.
Jeez.
Oh. Yeah. So Todd and I have already asked ourselves this question multiple times. Is this the most frustrating Angels season you've ever seen? Especially because the first month and a half was so positive.
Yes, that it's toyed with my emotions in ways that people that aren't Angel fans can't imagine.
That's fair.
Because we did start off so hot, and because we do have like a good squad, and it's just and then you go back to like the things like striking out looking, and you then flying out infield flyouts and and blown saves, and it's frustrating because of who we have. It's frustrating because of how meteoric our start was. And it just there's so many times I'm on my back deck watching the game, and at the end of it, I'm like, well, there's another 3.5 hours I'll never get back. Like, thanks, Angels. I just gave that to you, and you gave me, but
we still love you, right?
Loss.
Yeah, but you know what, man? If you're not with them when they're at their lowest, you don't deserve to be with them when they're at their highest.
I agree.
That's what being a fan is, man. Like, I wear this stuff proudly, man. No matter what.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Yep, we wear this year round, even though we get criticized, but it is.
Especially being in SoCal, you got your Dodger fans, and it's like, or like people always like, oh, how come you're not a Dodger fan? Because I'm not, because I'm an Angels
every time.
I grew up watching the Dodgers too. I was watching in '88. I was, but I'm an Angels fan, man. I'm an Anaheim Angels fan.
There you go.
Can we get already to switch that too? Because that could be the first. Could we get that back?
Yeah, right. I've been wanting to go back to California personally.
I'd be fine with that too. Perfectly fine with that.
And we were just talking about that the other day, speaking of which, dropping the name, but we've worn these red and whites for about 20 years. What would your I put that out on the post game. What would your thoughts be, Frankie, about actually going back to more of like, how like the Royals have and the Blue Jays have gone back to the powder blues at times? What about like a good retro look to the new Angel uniform, maybe?
I would be cool with that. I would I personally like the City Select jerseys this year. The City Select
City Connects.
I think City Connect. Yeah, I'm rocking the shirt of it right now.
There you go.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, those are great. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I personally was not a fan of the blue pinstripe.
Oh yeah, not those.
Winged A. That
yeah, I was the only one who liked them.
Oh man, I remember being a younger man, preteen or teenager when I was just like, oh god,
yeah,
because they went away from the the A's with the blue and red waistband and
Yep.
the yellow halo. You know, like I love those. I love those throwbacks.
Yeah.
I always say the Nolan Ryan, the Reggie Jackson era.
Yep.
The mid '80s, and then when they went to those A with the wings and the blue and the light. Oh boy,
The Disney era ones.
yeah, no good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a minute since we've really kind of switched up the look. There could be something, there could be maybe incorporate, some more of the blue. I don't know, I really I think they still have a sharp looking uniform. I love the home uniforms with the red jerseys and the white pants. I think that's the best look. Hey, that might be something else, that helps turn things around. You never know. Stranger things have happened. It's worth a try.
Hey, we changed the uniform and then immediately won the World Series. So
Yeah,
maybe we need to change the uniform again.
Exactly. That's the first year they switched to those. And if nothing else, they'll sell a ton of them,
Exactly.
because we're all fanatics. I'll go out and buy the new hat and the new shirt and everything else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% the kind of guy who's like, damn it, Artie, sell the team. And then they're like, oh, new uniform, New Jersey. I'm like, all right, I'll take 6.
Yep.
Right over here, my good man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, all you need is the right players to model those, like they had with Syndergaard and those beach pictures with Trout and everything. It's like, oh yeah, those are fresh. I want those.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
I tell my wife, because she's a Jays fan all the time, I've always been a fan of anything powdered blue. Like I love I always dug the Royals. I always dug the Twins when they had those.
Yes.
Blue Jays. I like that. That reminds me of like 70s, 80s baseball.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I like that. Like
The gritty old baseball.
look what happened to the Padres since they went back to a brown, man. Their uniforms before that were the plainest, most generic, boring vanilla uniforms ever. They went back to the brown and yellow, and they've been a fun ass team to watch. Not saying that's the reason, just saying it helps. It helps add to it.
Yeah, it helps usher in a new era when you can get the fans excited to wear it. I mean, I grew up in San Diego. I lived there for 20 years before I moved to Orange County and then had to move to Texas. But, growing up in San Diego, like I used to hate going to Padres games. The fans really weren't into it. Nobody wore any Padres stuff.
Yeah.
But over the last, 3 or 4 years since they went to the Browns, a lot of people wear them now. Granted, coincidentally, the team's winning. So now the fans are coming out of San Diego.
Yeah.
But, it was a baseball town when I first, was growing up there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, same though. I remember going to games there, and like it was always the, funny thing was whoever they were playing, there was more fans than them.
Yep.
It was always like that in San Diego during the navy blue and orange days and stuff, and even up to a few years ago. But they've really turned that friend. They're a fun squad to watch too. And I really dig those jerseys going back to, that has a real retro feel to it. It reminds me of like the 70s, 80s era of baseball.
I got one more question for you as far as baseball. You brought up the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And, like we ask our fans a lot, because I have a very deep hatred for the Dodgers.
Gotcha.
I don't, but I respect what they do though. Yeah. I respect what they do. I can't stand them. Like my season ends when they're eliminated. I don't care who wins the World Series after that.
Yeah.
Are you that type, or how are your feelings toward the Dodgers?
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily that because again I grew up a diehard Angel fan, but at the same time, my dad was raised in East LA and he was an Angel fan, but he also Dodgers were his national league team. My grandmother was a Dodger fan, so we went to Dodger games growing up. I got to see Fernando Valenzuela, and I got to see Steve Sachs and Scioscia and Hershiser and those guys, and those guys to me growing up as a kid were equally the same caliber superstars as the Reggie Jacksons and the Bobby Gritches and the Brian Downings and those guys. So it was cool. They were the other team. I went to the parade when they won in '88 as a little kid. But I was an Angel fan, but it was like, oh, the other team, growing up as I got older, I really gravitated obviously a lot more towards the Angels. And I have friends that are much like you and despise the ground Dodger fans walk on and Dodgers walk on. I watch them from afar, and I don't hate their success. I don't hate it when they lose either. I have friends that are Padres fans and feel the same way and hate the Dodgers. I think I dislike Dodger fans more than I like to dislike Dodgers themselves.
Okay.
I think I
fair.
dislike Dodger
That's
fan
fair.
base.
I
Yeah,
agree with that.
the Dodger fan base can be a difficult crowd to be around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like a lot of Dodger players. You know, you can't possibly hate Kershaw. The guy, like, even if you
Yeah.
physically try to hate Kershaw, you can't. He's a good guy. He's a
Yeah.
good player.
Right. And
But-
we just lost Vin,
Yeah,
that
you gotta love Vin.
you got to respect that franchise, because I mean, not for nothing, in LA sports, it's, whether you like it or not, it's still a Dodger and a Laker town.
Yeah,
Even though the Rams just won a Super Bowl, and I'm a huge Rams fan, which is cool, but it's still, the sports teams in this town are the Dodgers and the Lakers.
Yeah.
Or in the
Agreed.
Southern California region. So, and the Dodgers, they have a remarkable history, and it's a storied franchise, and so you got to respect that aspect of it. But having said that, as an Angel fan, yeah, Dodger fans not my favorite people,
Yeah.
not at all.
I mean, they got bored of fighting the other fans. Now they're fighting each other. I've seen
Yeah,
all
good.
these videos.
That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead, knock yourself out.
that's what Twitter's for, just to see Dodger fights.
Literally, knock yourselves out. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I will say this: I actually enjoyed Dodger Stadium. Getting to Dodger Stadium, I can't stand because it's a saga to try to get to the stadium, which again is another reason I love Angel Stadium. The Big A, in and out. I'm never waiting more than 5 minutes to get in or out. Anytime I've been there, I love it.
You ever tailgate over at the park?
Many years ago, yeah. Nowadays I'm just going usually with my wife and my 9-year-old boy and my mom.
Well, if you're in town September 17th, we're doing a tailgate at the park. So
book it. You got my info. Hit
All
me
right.
up, man. I'll
Yeah.
be there.
all right, cool.
I'll be there. I'll be drinking all the free beer you guys have.
We'll load it up for you, man. Just let us know what's your favorite.
Yeah. We used back in the day. I went a couple of times with friends, and they had they bring a couple RVs, and we get there early, and it's fun. That's great. It's fun times.
All
Can't
right.
go wrong with tacos, beers, and some baseball on a beautiful Southern California day.
That's heaven right there, buddy.
Right.
That's why you pay the price, right? People pay what they
yep.
do to live there. Is there any other wrestlers that are Angels fans, or just big baseball fans that you just constantly talk with?
God, you know what? It's not really baseball fans. I mean, there are some like being on the road. We've gone to So there's a guy that works for AEW named Raphael Morphy, and he's the guy that basically books our venues for our live events. And brilliant, hardworking guy, really cool guy. He's a good friend of mine, huge baseball guy. So I talked to him about it a lot. Taz is a big Mets guy.
Oh yeah.
So I talked to him a lot. Brian Myers, who's also a big Mets guy. I talked to him. There's not a whole lot of baseball guys. I mean, there's some. It's weird with wrestling now. There's some football fans, but a lot of wrestlers are not even like sports people anymore. It's weird. Like when I was coming up, everybody almost seemed like all the boys in the locker room liked boxing and MMA and football at least. And, a lot of them like baseball too. Now there's so many guys just don't even watch sports. I'm like, what? It's just weird. I don't know. I'm weird, man. If I beat someone, there's like, I could do without sports. I'm just like, we're probably not going to vibe, man, because like it's just such a big part of my life and my childhood, and it's like, and there's so many, like, baseball's life, man. Baseball's magic. There's so many metaphors in the sport that translate to real life, and it's just such a huge, so for someone that doesn't get it or doesn't even care to watch, it's like, I'm probably going to gravitate towards the person that's, the complete baseball fanatic,
Yeah. Yeah, my wife always asks, like, how do you like, baseball? I mean, because she's a big hockey person. Obviously, she's Canadian.
Yeah.
So, hockey to them, that's what you're taught. So, she's a big Ducks fan. I'm a Coyotes fan. Go figure. But, the thing with baseball that I would just always tell her, because she's like, how do you watch it? I would just tell her that I love baseball because, for 3 hours, you don't have a care in the world. You're at a baseball game, and it's just a happy 3 hours. You got nothing to worry about, and you just got to sit back and relax. But, I will admit it's really hard to go to a baseball game and truly enjoy it if you don't understand the game inside the game.
Sure. Oh, I can 100%. I can see how a baseball game would be boring, because that's the criticism. It's like, how can you go to baseball games? They're boring. You're just there for 3 hours, and it's absolutely, you're right. I was telling my son this. I was like, baseball games do get boring. They do. but like that, it can flip and it could be the most exciting thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yep.
You know, it's, you know, and, but for the untrained eye or for the fan that is just a casual fan, you know, if you're not invested in the players or the teams and you're just there at a game because you got, you know, your buddy had an extra ticket and you came along, yeah, you know, you're not going to be, but for us that are invested and that grew up watching it and that love it and that, you know, that think it's magic, because I 100% think baseball's magic. You know, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like there's never a bad day at the baseball park.
Yeah, because I could tell you real quick, if like home runs are nice and everything, but to a casual fan that goes, and I've been there a few times this season where, you know, I'll prefer a guy at first base and they hit the gap with a line drive. And then you're looking at the base runner where he's at, the outfielder, like you get your adrenaline pumping because you're like, okay, oh God, there's me a play at the plate. You know, there's me a throw. And
third base coach whining them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you're seeing, okay, is the ball, you're gauging, is the ball going to get there at the same time? And if it does, you're looking at the ump and then you see him say safe and the place goes nuts. Yeah, I mean, there's not a better feeling.
No, what a pop. What, like, it's like you said, it's an adrenaline rush, you know, and it's just, it's like, again, there's moments. Everything is about moments. And like baseball just has a certain mystique to it that other sports don't. You know, there's a certain magic. I don't know if you guys saw it today in the Little League World Series, the kid that got hit.
Oh yeah.
Did you see? And like, but
I didn't know.
Okay, so what a moment. I mean, like, so this kid, you know, he let one go and a kid took a ball, an ear hold him and it put him down. And it was scary and he like crumbled. And you know, trainers came out and everything and it was tense. And, you know, Vinci got up and, you know, walked to first base. The pitcher, the kid that threw the ball, was so shook. He was like basically just standing there crying on the mound. The kid that got hit took his helmet off, walked over and like gave the guy a hug. And then all the infield came in and the coaches came in. They all hugged the kid and like uplifted. Dude, I got goosebumps right now talking to him. So it's just like moments like that. It's like, that's a lesson. That's a life lesson right there that this, you know, that our fun little game gave us. There's nothing like it, man.
Well, like in Moneyball, how can you not get romantic about baseball? You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
It's really, I mean, there's nothing more magical in all of sports than a walk-off in baseball. I don't care if it's a home run or a hit. You know what I mean? That feeling. I remember being at a Freeway Series game when Cameron Maben struck out to win the game. And yes, I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Yasmani Grandal threw the ball into right field.
Oh, yeah.
Cameron Maben ran to first base. Brendan Revere scored. I was at that game. I've never gone so ballistic in my life. It was just the most bizarre moment. I've never seen somebody strike out to win a game. And that's just a moment where you're like, only baseball could do that.
You might not see that again ever.
Yeah, probably not.
One of the games I was at this year, I failed to mention, was a Rendon walk-off.
There you go. The one against Washington?
Yes. And that was the first walk-off I've ever seen live.
Oh, wow.
Really?
And again, it was just, dude, it was nuts. And then everybody's leaving the stadium, high-fiving.
Yeah.
Everybody's on a high. There's a buzz as you go out of the stadium. It's so cool, man. Nothing like it.
The getting was good back then.
Yeah, right.
Lots changed since.
Yeah.
That's the interactions that a lot of people forget about too, is when you leave a walk-off like that and like, again, you know, not knowing the person next to you and you don't care. You're just like, yeah, fist pump, high five.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
High fiving everybody around you, strangers. It's the best, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So last question I have for you. What's your favorite baseball movie, if you had to pick one?
Hands down, without hesitation, Major League.
The first one?
Major League, the first one, yes, the first one.
Well, certainly not the third
one.
We try not to talk about the third one.
For this reason, two of my best friends, who I'm still good friends with to this day, grew up watching that movie and quoting it to each other ad nauseum. To I mean, I don't know if you guys are fans of that movie. I'm going to go ahead and assume you are. To this day, I was in my hot tub the other day, and my buddy was over, and I did the Lou Brown. Oh, this whole body could use the soap. You know, I quote that movie to this day ad nauseum, and I absolutely love it. Just brilliant. Followed very, very, very closely by Field of Dreams.
Yeah,
those are my 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah, I definitely like to pretend I'm a macho man, but anytime that scene happens where he's playing catch or he wants to play catch with his dad, I'm like, every time like, here comes the waterworks.
You can't help it. Well, you're a human being and you have emotions, so you can't help it, man.
Yeah, that's one of the best movie moments of my life. That moment right there.
James Earl Jones' speech about baseball. Just
takes your breath away, and that's why I love the fact they went back there and played last year, the Yankees and White Sox, and what a game. You know, that was
unreal.
Phenomenal.
Again, going back, it's magic, man. Of course, that game ended like that. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year with the Field of Dreams game. I don't think they can repeat the magic of last year just because it was the first time. I mean, is Kevin Costner going to get lost coming to the pitcher's mound every year?
Yeah. No, it'll be cool. That's something I'm really glad they're doing though. That's how cool is that?
And one last question for me: thoughts on the World Baseball Classic and Mike Trout being Captain America?
I was psyched. I was cool. That was I was really happy. I'm with his back now. I'm hesitant that I don't know if that's still going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't. I think it was up to Mike Trout. 100%, he would still do it, but I think maybe the powers that be and the higher ups might want him to not risk potentially, straining or further injuring the back. I thought it was cool because it's a statement to how much the guy loves the game. He wants to just play. He wants to represent his country and play baseball. He probably just wants to win something.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, maybe he saw this as his opportunity to win something. I don't know though, man. Right now, I think it's a dicey situation. I don't know if, and for good reason, I could see, the Angels organization maybe saying, let's pump the brakes on that because we need you healthy for, what we want to do.
True.
Yeah. Especially with this potentially being Ohtani's last season in an Angels uniform coming up. I mean, we talk about the 1 year window closing quickly. You have 1 year here, one off season to prove to this guy, a generational talent, that he needs to stick around, because if not, rebuild mode's going to come real quick.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's just, I have blind optimism when it comes to the team. I'm in it for the long haul. So let's hope we can pick this conversation up in a year and be talking about how awesome it is that the Angels are 18 games in first, and
we're going to hold you to that.
Yeah,
in a year.
So let's do it, man.
Let's see if we're all Halo honks come this time next year. If we're on the Halo honk mode.
Let's hope so, man.
Hey, what a great interview and spending time with you, Frankie. It's good to meet a fellow Angel fan, especially a fan of wrestling as we are, to talk to you too and to spend some time with us. So we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. I mean, always happy to talk baseball, man. This is the same conversation I'd have with my buddies, out back smoking cigars and having whiskey. Just talking baseball. I love it. I could talk baseball. I could talk music all day. So thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it, guys.
Oh, sweet.
Absolutely. No problem.
All right. So this has been another episode of Halos in the Infield with your host, Todd Fox, and our guest, Frankie Kazarian. You want to see him on AEW? Check that out. What are the times for the shows on the West Coast?
So I think it's 8 p.m. out here, and if you get the East Coast feed, that's obviously 5 p.m. for Dynamite. And Rampage is 10 o'clock or 7 o'clock if you get the East Coast feed.
Sweet. Well, there you go.
You want to drop your socials real quick? Or
you can find me. I'm most active on Twitter, and that's just Frankie Kazarian on Twitter. Instagram's Frankie Kazarian official. Twitter, I'm usually talking something. If I'm not talking about music, or I'm probably talking about Angels baseball or some other type of nonsense. But give me a follow, man. I like talking to fellow Angel fans, and I like communicating. I'll message or I'll tweet Gooby in the middle of a game, and because I think the world of that guy, and he's just, those guys. That's one thing I didn't mention is that our announcers, Gooby specifically, do such a good job at keeping the game interesting when in uninteresting times. There's so many times where the game is lagging. Those guys never are not giving their all and keeping the audience engaged and being either funny or telling you a fun stat or a fun story. Those guys are great, in my opinion.
Gooby's the top dog in the industry. Literally, we had Rick Waltz on, we had Sutton on last year. You know, so we're supposed to have Victor Rojas on soon, and everyone just always says how good Gooby really is in the booth.
He is. He's phenomenal, man. He's one of the very best to do it, and I always go out of my way to tell him that, at least on social media. And this just appears to be such a wonderful guy. You know, it seems like such a happy, genuinely good dude.
Yeah, he's a very positive guy. We've called him the Tony Romo of our baseball crew because he seems to call the pitches before they happen. So
yeah, that's a great analogy. As a matter of fact, yeah, it really is.
Yeah, he's called our post-game show countless times. He's been on our show many times. Yeah. So yeah, he's a great guy. He's really fun to talk baseball with.
Cool. Give Gooby my best.
Will do.
Cool. Thank you, boys.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Yep, you too. Take care.